Welcome to Digging into the Future. Today we have Malia Mason, one of the top professors from Columbia Business School and one of our newest partners at PTC. And she has just completed what was our first executive education here at Columbia Business School, or not at Columbia Business School, at PTC and with Columbia Business School. But thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you for having me.
Looking forward to hearing about what you think about our new little program.
So we ran this program in conjunction, in partnership with PTC, and there were 28 attendees in the inaugural class. We talked some about what leadership is. We talked some about the skills that effective leaders have and how to develop those skills. We worked on those skills. It was an opportunity for the students or the attendees to grow their networks. And we talked some about disruption, about strategy. It was phenomenal.
And what do you think? This is your first sort of time in the region, right? I mean, in terms of being out here, and what do you think about the types of people here? It was kind of pretty cool, right, to have a diversity of because you had Pacific Islanders and Indians and Chinese, right? It was a kind of a mixed bag, right?
Yes.
For folks.
I mean, I think one of the things that made the program really unique is that there was like a very diverse group of attendees. So I believe the 28 attendees came from 20 different countries.
Oh, wow.
And so that was phenomenal. Iceland, we had Samoa, Fiji, we had, the UK, from all over the world. And I should say that that diversity can be a real strength. It isn't necessarily a strength. I think what made it amazing is that they're all from the same industry, so that they had this common kind of grounding and framework. It made it a lot easier for them to capitalize on that diversity and workshop things. Because I've taught diverse groups before, but if they don't have a common industry, it doesn't work as well. So I thought that was an amazing aspect of the program.
What exactly did you teach? Was it negotiation skills, or what's the program? I mean, give us the snapshot.
Yes. So I would say that, again, we start by talking about what leadership is. I mean, there are endless definitions of leadership. The one that we use, it's not inspiring, but I think it's very practical. So we say, leadership is a conferred status. You're a leader when people see you as a leader, that at the end of the day, it exists in the minds of other people. And so that part of developing as a leader is developing a skill set, developing a network of relationships that you can draw on, having a strategic mindset. And so the focus was really on developing those things. I mean, we only have 3 days, so we sort of have to pick and choose. And I would say some of the benefit of the program comes from those topics and learning about those topics. And but there's also just this opportunity to grow your network. Again, it's a diverse group of people, but they're not random people. There are people that are in your industry and are wrestling with the same problems, and you're going to see them again, right? Y'all come back to PTC. So I thought it was well executed on PTC's part. Yeah.
Great. Thinking back about it, what was it kind of the thing that was unexpected when you came here? I mean, because this is the first time sort of doing this thing, and by the way, I'm involved with PTC, and this was an experiment, I think, because normally executive education is done by a company and they have their employees, and this was done by sort of a society, and we were actually trying to bring a diverse group. So it was just a very different sort of odd.
Yes, and I mean, we've spoken some about the uniqueness and the strength of the program and the diversity. But I would say that what I'm more accustomed to is typically we do open enrollment. So I teach a negotiations program at Columbia Business School, and really anyone in the world can sign up for it. And so we get a diverse group of people, but again, they're from different industries, and they might be different levels. Or we do a customs program where we work with an organization. It's typically a company to develop content specifically for their employees. And in a program like that, you might meet someone from somewhere else in the organization, and we can talk more directly about the problems they're facing in their firms. But I think this is a really nice middle ground where, again, you're going to meet people that you wouldn't otherwise meet from all over the world, but they're not just random people, right?
Yeah.
They are in the same industry. So that was really amazing. And the program, it was the first time out. It wasn't perfect. We gotta reflect, iterate on it a little bit. But I will say that. I'm going to say that your people did an amazing job with the logistics and getting all the details right. Columbia is fantastic in so many ways. They don't get every detail right always, but I was really just impressed by the thought that went into things. We had aloha shirts, right? So.
Well, essentially, it's kind of funny because I've been doing this for 20 some odd years coming here, and there's something about, I think, just even the fact that you're in a relaxed environment, and it sounds like it translates to education as well, right? It sort of brings a different dimension, right? Which is when you're not wearing a suit, you're wearing a Hawaiian shirt, and you're and your professor has a lei on, and it's it's definitely different, right?
Yes. Yeah. One of the things on my to-do list, things we can work on, is maybe signaling to the attendees in advance. It really truly is pretty casual.
Yeah.
Because we do have some people who show up with blazers and they end up being a little warm. So.
The feedback that we've got, even from the course that you were there, is that you draw people out of their shell, so they actually take a look. It's more of a 360 degree. They're looking at themselves in many ways, which is. I think it's a great experience, and it's a great thing I actually believe, for all human beings to go through at some point every year or two to take a few days to sort of look at themselves, right?
Everyone's busy, competing demands for their time, and so it can be stressful, right? To be I'm going to take 3 days for me. I realize the emails are piling up. You asked earlier what was surprising to me, and I didn't answer it, but I do think that one of the most surprising things was probably how quickly people warmed up, how willing they were to take risks. And I think that's important for a leadership development program, right? People were vulnerable. I just think it really set the stage for them to be able to use each other as a resource moving forward in their careers. They need thought partners, someone who's in their industry, but maybe not in their immediate space. And so that was probably the thing I found most surprising, was how willing people were to do that.
Yep.
And maybe it was the aloha shirts.
No, it's actually, I was sort of kind of just thinking about it the other day. We were walking back with one of the board members of BG, of PTC. The fact that you probably, when you teach, it's normally, if it's a team, they're all in the same company. And the fact that these are from different companies also allows them to sort of, because they don't have to worry about, I'm going to see this guy on Monday, and if I reveal something about myself, I've got to do it. So in some ways, I think this program, in a good way, is good for them, because they can actually be out of their own, so they can, whatever happens here, stays here. It happens in Hawaii, stays in Hawaii, right?
Yes, absolutely. And again, most of the exercises that we do and activities that we do, we're kind of capitalizing on the mistakes that everybody makes, right? Yeah. So it's just, your point is really just that they don't have to worry. They can be upfront. They can get the feedback. There's a safety in that way, and I think that's right. And then on top of that, it's just things are going to get messed up because we're professionals. We know what we're doing, and we want to get you messed up so that you can learn from that compelling experience and not do that thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So tell me about high performing teams, just because that's always something you have a lot of CEOs that come to this conference, and what do you try and do? When you how do you break them down to build them up?
Right. So I think the first thing to say is that we just remind them that no team is good from day one. No great team started that way. That really the best teams got there through a process of reflection and kind of tinkering with how the team is functioning and iterating on that. So I think, that is the starting point for the class. And truly, if they remember one thing from that session, I think it's just that they remember to take a step back and be like, hey, how are things going here? As the leader of the team, it's on me to look for ways to make adjustments so the team functions more effectively. If they take one thing, it's that, right? Yeah. And so we talk some about what teams do. They, broadly, they make decisions, they innovate, they coordinate work. And then we talk some about what enables those things. They do some exercises to illustrate, if you don't have kind of safety to have conflict, if you, you don't have a good climate, if you don't communicate well, how things can go awry. And so we do some exercises and activities to illustrate that for them, and then use that as a starting point for talking about, well, how can we do this better, and what should you be looking for. So
interesting. Yeah. So you create the climate, I guess.
100%.
Yeah, that's probably going to be hard to do, though. I mean, it's like
yes.
the tricks of the trade, I guess, right?
The tricks of the trade. That's I'm an expert. 2 decades.
No, but it's interesting. But is that so? When you start, I'm kind of I'm trying to break you down here, trying to understand how you because it is fascinating how a professor. Because I mean, I must say, after watching how you're in action, you're amazing. You break things. No, but you had a team that was completely at comfort with each other.
Yes.
And it was amazing how you did it. And you did it in a few hours. Yeah. I mean, it was absolutely amazing. And it's just, I'm just trying to think. It's very fascinating how you do this. But anyway, so let's talk about one of the other things that you are an expert in is diversity. Yep. You've really looked at sort of sustainability and how do you actually make companies not only function now but for the long term, right? Yep. And I think one of the biggest challenges is especially in Asia is how do we actually, what is diversity? And is it just I need more women, or I need more people of minorities, or is it diversity of thinking? Is it where do you think as a professor, what do you think is it sort of?
Yep. I mean, I think they're both important. I agree with you that they're different, right? Yeah. I also think that they're related, right? So that, diversity in thinking and ideas and perspectives can be useful. It has the potential to be useful, right? Diverse teams, and we're talking about diversity of thought here and perspectives, they have the potential to make better decisions, right? They have the potential to make more innovative products. I mean, in practice, that doesn't always happen, right? So we talk some in the program about how do you make them, teams that are diverse, terrific and not terrible, because they're usually pretty terrible, right? Yep. I would say that that's kind of one angle we take. I do think the focus really in the program is on the diversity in perspectives, right? They'll do an exercise and it'll be someone from HR and it'll be someone from sales and marketing, right? And they have different, cultures, and they have different incentives, right? And different knowledge, and how to use that information. But I do think that diverse perspectives and diverse knowledge is not unrelated to diversity in the demographic sense. Yep. Just if we're just going to generalize that people of different demographics have different perspectives, they have different experiences, that are a potential resource if you capitalize on them.
Yeah. But I guess one of the questions I have for you is, can you get diversity without, because in some cases you don't really have a choice, right? You may only have a universe of X number of people in your field that understand these things. And so how do you create that sort of diversity, of thought in a world where you may or may not have the ability to sort of bring in the broader, because the skill, take you're a bunch of neurosurgeons, right? How do you get, they might all be, unfortunately, 12 white men in your hospital, and how do you get that sort of?
And so let me make sure I'm understanding. There's this is the team we got, right? And these are the players. It's fixed. How do we deal with the fact that we really do have the same experience, and versus this is a team of white male neurosurgeons. How do we make it a less homogenous group?
Yes.
You're asking me the former, not the latter.
Yes.
Okay, yeah. And it's great because I actually feel like the course we teach at Columbia Business School on teams, there's so much you could possibly say. We don't have that much time. And so we say, listen, we're going to assume the team members are fixed, right? Yeah. You got what you got. In most organizational settings, you can't just let's just rotate this person out. I mean, the reality is you can, right? And that is a practice that some people do.
Upgrade, as I say.
Well, right? I think sometimes what people will do is they'll take groups and they'll be all right, we're converging around, we have some consensus around this thing. Let's just rotate someone in, and we're going to explain to them like, our thinking. They're going to have some questions about the assumptions that we're making, and like in that way you're like building some diversity in. Can it be annoying? Yeah, because you want to reach consensus quickly. Yeah, but like the problem with teams is that they often reach consensus too quickly.
Yeah.
And then they have more confidence in the path they're pursuing than they probably should have. But to me, it's also just about, building debate into the conversation, right? Like you can assign roles to people. You three, let's talk about a world where this investment was like an amazing outcome. And you three, you guys come up with the world in which it was a disaster. Let's have a conversation about that. And let's surface the assumptions that we're making as we're pursuing these, like in these two worlds. And that can be really useful. So, again, you're not bringing diverse people in the demographic sense to the table, but I think you can create some of it.
Yeah, it's fascinating because it is a hard, it's really hard because you're also dealing with really smart people,
yes,
very successful people normally,
yes,
that are sort of sitting there and having to try and get them to think about things a little bit differently.
Yes.
One last question before we get into and this is off the charts.
Yes, okay.
Artificial intelligence, right?
Oh my goodness.
So, because this is every academic is sort of having to deal with this, right? And you talk about making consensus.
Yeah.
If they all go on the AI model, they're all going to come up with the same answer, right? And they're going to be all like, does it in some ways? It is an interesting, and I don't know the answer to this. This is a question I've thought about, but as we think about AI in this next generation, how do we get people to still think diversely rather than, I'm going to press a button and say, ChatGPT, what's the right answer? And they all come with the same answer.
Yeah, no, it's a really great question, and I'm not going to pretend to have the answer. But it's certainly something that we're wrestling with at Columbia Business School, and I think there needs to just be a little bit of an attitude shift, and like let's spend less time worrying about how it's going to mess us up and make our lives hard and like make grading difficult, and like it's here, everyone, right? And like, it's pretty amazing. So how do we do this well? And so, for me, just like a small example, the students in my negotiations course, they have to write a paper about like a negotiation experience that they had, right? Like how they prepared for it, what happened, a reflection on it. You can't use ChatGPT for that, and do it well, because they have to illustrate to me the lessons that they internalize some of what we talked about. Where it comes up is I think people will use it to correct their grammar or make their ideas coherent. And I finally was listen, I don't want to grade on grammar anyway. We've got a lot of students who are not native English speakers, and frankly, I'm wildly impressed that they're in this program, right? So I'm just folks, you can use it. This is the prompt that you can use. Let's just level the playing field. You're all allowed to use it, but it has to be ChatGPT, please correct my grammar, and then I'm fine with it. I will say that someone one of my co-instructors, my only co-instructor in this program with you folks is Dan Wong, and he has done some pretty amazing things. He used it actually in the program. So typically in the stuff that he teaches, students will do a case study. They'll read about Netflix, and then they'll come into the classroom and they'll discuss it. One of the things he's done is he now has he basically creates podcasts so that the students can read it, but they can also just listen to the podcast quickly, right? He also has kind of built something on top of generative AI, I think it's ChatGPT, where students prepare for the discussion. It's a strategy course, I guess I should say that. They prepare by typing into the prompt, this is what I think Netflix should do. And then the ChatGPT is what about this, right? So they kind of debate with ChatGPT even before they come into the classroom. And for them, it's a way for them to sharpen their ideas before they come in and have this thoughtful debate. So I think there are great ways to use it, frankly. You got to lean into it a little.
Yeah. No, I agree. And it's this dangerous new world around us, but I think it's going to be a fun new world. Well, Malia, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Bill.
Digging into the future, and it's been an honor to have you here for hopefully the first of many tours out here to PTC. We've really enjoyed it, so thank you for joining.
Thank
and
you.
being our partner.
We're grateful for the partnership. Thank you.